Hey guys, Dan here with Battlefield Curator. Me and my son have recently been playing a lot of Battlefield 1. Now this game, if you haven't played it, is amazing. It's a balance between arcade and realism, making sure that it's very well balanced for weapons, teams, and vehicles. Now speaking of weapons, one thing I noticed was that there's a large selection of bolt-action rifles, and while yeah, they really chose a diverse amount of bolt actions, I think they missed a few that should have been in the game. Now, in no particular order, these are my top 5 repeating rifles that should have been in Battlefield 1. And be sure to stick around for the bonus rifle. Number 1, a rifle I think that should have definitely been in Battlefield 1 is the Gewehr 88. Specifically, you would probably see the updated version, the 8805. So by World War I time frame, Germany had a lot of Gewehr 98s. The Gewehr 88, by that time, had pretty much got phased out and would have been used by the Home Guard and secondary line troops, but they made over 2.8 million Gewehr 88s. Not only did the German Empire use the Gewehr 88s, but the Ottoman Empire used some other countries used some, and even China made a copy of it called the Pyongyang 88. It was fed from an N-block clip in a milsurp-style magazine. It fired the German military's first smokeless cartridge. The Gewehr 88 has a barrel shroud that makes the barrel look like a beefy big barrel, but the reality is there's a gap between that shroud and the barrel. The barrel shroud was there to help for heat dissipation and to help give it a little bit more accuracy because it free-floated the barrel. Now realistically, there were some downsides to the rifle, which is why it got phased out in favor of the Mauser 98. First of all, we have to go back to that barrel shroud. A lot of water and moisture would accumulate in the barrel shroud, inside of it, along the barrel, and by where the wood meets the barrel shroud, and that would just cause a lot of rust issues and pitting, and it would eventually start disintegrating away. Not only that, the barrel shroud was prone to damage, dents and dings. Another problem that the Gewehr 88 faced was that it got a lot of dirt and muck inside of the action and where the bolt is and everything because of that opening in the milsurp style magazine. So with all the issues that it faced, they got phased out and the German government went back to Mauser for the 98. Now the 88 was used in World War I, so I do think that it should have been in the game. Alright, second rifle here. This French Berthier MLE 1907-15 should have been in Battlefield 1. While there were more labels used by the French military in World War I, the Berthier was number 2 and it was produced in a large amount of numbers. Not only that, but you could have also had a carbine variant in there to supplement the Berthier rifle. Now France needed rifles really fast, so the Berthier was cheaper to produce, it was easier to produce than the Lebel. It also fired the smokeless 8mm Lebel cartridge. Even the esteemed Harlem Hellfighters, comprised of African-American soldiers, used the Berthier rifle. Now they made over 2.3 million Berthier rifles for World War I, but they came at a downside here because you're arming your infantrymen with a 3-round M-block clip. That was a problem because the enemy could get off 5 rounds versus the 3 rounds. But either way, I think in some fashion or form, whether it be the carbine or the rifle, the Berthier should have been featured in the game. Number 3, this rifle should have definitely been in Battlefield 1 because at the time it was Italy's primary infantry rifle, the Carcano M1891. It is not portrayed in the game. The carbine is, but the Carcano M1891 long rifle is not. The Carcano M1891 fired the 6.5 caliber. It was a fast and flat shooting cartridge out of a long-barreled rifle such as this, which meant it was great for mountainous fighting. Don't forget, the Italians were part of the Allied forces and contributed to their victory. The Italians produced over 2 million long rifles. Maybe they could have had the infantry rifle and the sniper with the long rifle and then just left the carbine with the iron sights. That probably would have been very ideal for representing the Italian army in a World War I video game. Number 4, a rifle that should have been represented in Battlefield 1 is the Mauser M1893, specifically the Turkish Mauser. It was well documented that the Ottoman Empire used the Mauser 93 at the Battle of Gallipoli, successfully defeating the Allied powers. In general, the 1893 was developed for the Spanish, and it would have been firing the 7mm Mauser. Now, the Turkish actually got 201,000 of these, and they fired the 7.65. I think that there should have been a Turkish Mauser portrayed. You gotta think the 98 Mauser is the only Mauser actually portrayed in the game, not including the copies of the Mauser, of course. But there were many more Mausers produced leading up to World War I, and the 1893 was used by the Ottoman Empire. The 1893 is very well known amongst enthusiasts and military surplus collectors. So I think a smaller caliber Mauser rifle should have been portrayed, like a small ring Mauser should have been portrayed in the game, maybe giving it a little bit of faster action on the bolt and a little less damage. So that way it might be good for closer engagements. So I really don't see why it was not portrayed in the game. All right, rifle number 5. This rifle should have at least been portrayed in Battlefield 1 because it was used by the British and the Commonwealth. It is the Pattern 14, which was British designed. Essentially, they wanted to make a rifle after the Boer Wars, noticing that Mausers were somewhat superior to the short magazine Lee Enfield actions. The Pattern 14 was what the M1917 was copied from. Now, the M1917 holds 6 rounds of 30-06. The thing about the Pattern 14 is that it only holds 5 rounds of 303 British. The Pattern 14 would be used as a sniper rifle later in the war. Some of them were fitted with special peep sights and scopes. But before then, most of them were probably used for training and second-line troops. About 1.2 million of them were made by US manufacturers Winchester, Remington, and Remington Eddystone. Alright, I've got a bonus here that I think should have been in the game. And this might surprise you. The French actually ordered 15,000 Winchester M1894s. The M1894 was the first lever action in a full powered rifle cartridge, but I really think that this is a bonus because the French only had like 15,000 of them. Now I think if the game did portray it, obviously the cartridge, the 3030, would have been a little less powerful than the M1895, but it would have been a faster action, it would have held more rounds in the tubular magazine, and it probably would have been really, really good for the close quarters engagements of trench warfare and some of those urban areas. Well, that's it for the video. What rifles do you guys know of, or can you think of, that should have been in Battlefield 1? Let me know in the comments section. And as always, be sure to learn history and curate history. Pulverize the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Make it a great day.